Welcome back to the North Carolina Plumbing Code class. So, what we've been through so far is we've covered Chapter 2 out of the 2018 edition of the North Carolina Plumbing Code. We've been over Chapter 2 definitions, Chapter 3 general regulations, Chapter 4, the 4Fs, fixtures, faucets, and fixture fittings, Chapter 5 with water heaters, Chapter 6 with water supply and distribution, Chapter 7. We did two parts to that, a part one and part two, broke it into 2 weeks there of the sanitary drainage. And now we are into Chapter 8 with indirect and special waste is what we're looking to cover. So, and I believe that's on page 73 where that starts. But indirect and special waste, if you were trying to look and say, well, indirect waste, what is that talking about? If you're looking for a definition, you could always flip over to Chapter 2 in definitions and look under the I. And it has a term there, indirect waste pipe, and also indirect waste receptor. So if you were trying to get you an idea of what an indirect waste pipe is about, you could read that. A waste pipe that does not connect directly with the drainage system, but it discharges into the drainage system through an air break or air gap into a trap, a fixture, receptor, or interceptor. So indirect waste pipe, it does not connect directly to the system. So you more than likely have an indirect waste connection in your house. If you look at your clothes washer, okay, your clothes washer comes with a drain off the back. And so when that thing drains, it's got something that loops up and it's got this flexible hose that you are going to indirectly connect into the drainage system. So back in the wall, more than likely there's a box behind there, something that is hidden in the wall, but it's just basically the opening of a piece of pipe that goes down into a trap, and that goes off and is tied directly to the rest of the system, glued together joints and everything. But that probably hose is just hanging off and hanging down into there. So hanging over in there, it's not directly connected. It's not a solid joint glued together or some type of mechanical band clamping that on there. um so um this would be an indirect waste connection, and this would be through, if you looked up, if you read that again, it says, but it discharges into the drainage system through an air break or air gap, okay, into a trap, a fixture, receptor, or interceptor. This one is particularly called, it is an air break. And what that is doing, this indirect waste pipe is discharged above the trap seal here, but below the flood level rim. So right here where the weir is, we call that's the beginning of the trap seal. And then the top where it's going to flood, the FLR, flood level rim. Okay, so when it comes and discharges below the flood level rim but above the trap seal, we call that an air break. Now the difference between that is you might have something, maybe that's got a little discharge pipe off. That's up on a stand, maybe some type of ice maker or something like that. And we've got a condensate line that's going to discharge. And here's the floor level through maybe a floor drain. And that just has this area in here between, so it's discharging above the flood level rim. And that's called an air gap. There's actually a gap in there. So there's the difference between the air break and the air gap. But these here are called indirect waste pipe connections, okay? An indirect waste receptor, as defined in Chapter 2 on page 9, is a plumbing fixture designed to collect and dispose of the liquid waste from other plumbing fixtures, plumbing equipment, or appliances that are required to discharge to the drainage system through an air gap. The following types of fixtures fall within the classification of indirect waste receptors: floor sinks, mop receptors, service sinks, and standpipe drains with integral traps. Okay, those are different types of the receptors on those. Let's flip over to page 73. That is going to start into indirect and special waste. This chapter shall govern matters concerning indirect waste piping and special waste. This chapter shall further control matters concerning food handling, establishments, sterilizers, clear water waste, swimming pools, methods of providing air breaks or air gaps, and neutralizing devices for corrosive wastes. Okay. Gives and goes on. You can read about the protection, the process as far as maybe for cooling purposes, as cooling air flowing through that air gap. But where is it required? What's going to require us to have to do this? 802.1. Food handling equipment in other than dwelling units. So other than residential. Okay. So you go to a commercial place where you've got food handling equipment, clear water waste, dishwashing machines and utensils, pots, pans, and dishwashing sinks shall discharge through an indirect waste pipe as defined by these next sections here. Okay. Healthcare related fixtures, devices, and equipment shall discharge to the drainage system through an indirect waste pipe by means of an air gap in accordance with 713.3. Fixtures not required by this section to be indirectly connected shall be directly connected to the plumbing system in accordance with Chapter 7, which was the sanitary drainage chapter. Okay, food handling. Equipment and fixtures utilized for the storage, preparation, and handling of food shall discharge through an indirect waste pipe by means of an air gap. Each well of a multiple compartment sink shall discharge independently to a waste receptor. And that might be a little different than I don't know, if you work at a restaurant, check that out. Multiple compartments. So you got the large stainless steel sinks. And often you'll see those as big three large sinks here, okay? All right. Now, what you used to see is one might come down, come across, it pick this one up, come down, pick this one up, and then discharge over into some type of floor sink or something there, okay? The grate on that. And it would discharge in. This one is telling you that they have to, each well of a multi-compartment sink, we got 3 of them there, shall discharge independently to a waste receptor. So this is going to look a little bit more congested under there than what they used to be, because now they're saying you're going to have 3 pipes coming over here. You're going to have 3 pipes, 3 independent pipes over here over top of this that are going to discharge in. I guess you got the chances of one not affecting the others as much if you get one that's blocked up. Your other 2 are still working for you. Floor drains in food storage areas. Floor drains located within walk-in refrigerators or freezers in food service and food establishments shall be indirectly connected to the sanitary drainage system by means of an air gap. Where a floor drain is located within an area subject to freezing, the waste line serving the floor drain shall not be trapped and shall indirectly discharge into a waste receptor located outside of the area subject to freezing. Okay, so you got a big walk-in cooler, freezer, whatever, storage of food. You might want to be able to wash that thing out and clean it down. You get stuff leaking out from bottles and everything else, but you got this big walk-in thing with some type of floor drain there. But now, if it's in a place where it's going to be freezing, we wouldn't want to put a trap under there because that water is going to just freeze in there. So it says we'll take that out as an indirect waste connection. Here's our big walk-in place where all our food storage was. Takes it to the outside somewhere, and then that discharges indirectly into a waste receptor. Okay, that's what you're going to have. Now that one will be trapped on that. All right, what else have we got? A potable clear water waste, where devices and equipment such as sterilizer and leaf valves discharge potable water to the building drainage system. The discharge shall be through an indirect waste pipe by means of an air gap. It allows you for drinking fountains may be connected directly or indirectly connected to the drainage system. Okay, then it talks about swimming pools, non-potable clear water waste. Let's see, domestic washing machines. Let's look at that one, 802.1.6. So here's some rules about your dishwashing machine at the house. Domestic dishwashing machine shall discharge indirectly through an air gap or air break into a waste receptor in accordance with section 802.2. So there's one possibility. Connecting discharge indirectly through an air gap or air break into a waste receptor. It shall discharge into a Y branch fitting on the tailpiece of the kitchen sink. There's a second possibility. Or the dishwasher connection of the food waste disposer. There's a third possibility as far as where that could connect to. The waistline of a domestic dishwashing machine discharging into a kitchen sink tailpiece or food waste disposer shall connect to a deck-mounted air gap, or the waistline shall rise and be securely fastened to the underside of the sink rim or counter. Okay, so let's talk about all that. You've got your dishwashing machine or a dishwasher that you're about to install. A lot of these lines are installed incorrectly, and you could, if you've got one at the house, you could just take a look at it and see, hey, did this get installed correctly or not? So what it says is, one, we could have a dishwashing machine that goes in, and we could take the drainage line off of that. We could take in and feed in to a standpipe, just like our clothes washer does. So through an air gap or air break, we could discharge it down into and hook that thing up just like you do your clothes washer. That's one possibility. Okay, that was the first thing it mentioned. The next thing it mentioned is you can connect it to underneath the kitchen sink. Let's just say you've got a 2-compartment kitchen sink here. Maybe you've got one that comes down and comes over and connects to this one. This is called a continuous waste end outlet. One is coming over out the end and connecting to the other one. And that will come down and have a trap on it and go back in the wall. So we could put in this section here what's called a dishwasher. Y tailpiece, that little fitting right in that we attached. That's got a little kind of a barbed connection on the end of this right here. It comes in. It's got a flexible hose and a little rubber end to the drain hose of your dishwasher. So if you're going to put the dishwasher over here, it's got this hose. You're going to have a flexible hose that's going to come and connect to here. Okay. A lot of them already have like a spring-loaded clamp that goes on, or you can just put a hose clamp on there, and that's another possibility as far as where it can connect to. Another option that it did give you is it can connect to a garbage disposal. So if you do have a garbage disposal on one side, they will have a little barbed port coming off. Okay, that can pipe in. That can pipe off the one way. So I'm pulling that up wrong. Okay, so you have a garbage disposal. Take the little connection on the side. You can take the dishwasher drain hose and hook to the side of that and clamp it to the side there. When you do that, just be aware that if this is new and has not had one to it before, you could stick your finger in the side of that hole and you'll feel a little knockout plug. Be sure to, if you're hooking a dishwasher drain line to it, be sure to knock that plug out before you hook to it. Otherwise, the dishwasher doesn't drain so well. If they do not have anything hooked to it, leave the plug in, because otherwise, every time you let the water just flush out of here and it's going to go down the drain, it's going to be splashing out the side of that dishwasher inlet connection as well. Okay. So those are the possibilities that they gave you. Now, you may see one of these. It's they're getting fewer and far between, just because it would be an older style kitchen that somebody hasn't updated yet. But it says that when you're connecting to a dishwasher Y connection like we had before, or a garbage disposal that's under the kitchen sink, your dishwasher, the drain line it's going to go to one of the places that they said is a deck mounted vacuum breaker. Okay. So you got a vacuum breaker up there. It goes through, vacuum breaker, and can go down and then hook in. Okay. So that was one option. Like I said, if you get into an older kitchen and you see this funny looking and say, what is that thing that's mounted to the top of your countertop up there? It could be a vacuum breaker. Now, another place that they give you is to say or if you don't do that, it says you can take and run the drain line up and it gets connected or attached to the bottom side of the countertop. So basically you could just flex it up, and then bring it back down. And now I normally don't take some type of clamp or anything and try to hook it to the bottom. What I do is normally you've got the kitchen countertop here. These cabinet pieces came in, and there's going to be a wall to the cabinet right here. Okay, and we slid our dishwasher in this opening. It's on the other side of the wall of the cabinet. So I drill a hole right there at the top where my dishwasher is going to go and feed through the hole of the cabinet and then back down in. And this cabinet wall is holding the dishwasher drain up, and that meets that rule. So you could take a look at it, see if that is how yours run. Often, since the drain line comes down here at the bottom, if you're a typical handyman or something like that doesn't not aware of some of these rules, it's like, well, why run the drain line way up there? Why don't I here's the cabinet wall. What they're going to do is they're going to drill holes in the bottom and you're going to hook your water supply. And it's only going to just go to the hot water. Okay, you got a hot and cold. Hot's going up, cold's going up. And they will tee off of that line, bring a hot water line over, and then just have a hole down there too and run it through and connect it like that for the drain lows. That is incorrect right there. Okay, that's not supposed to go that way. You're supposed to bring it up, attach it, and bring it down. Check. That is the correct way of running that drain hose. So you'd have to take a look at that and say, hey, did mine get run properly or not? Now, some of your home inspectors if you're doing like a pre-sell or pre-buy inspection or whatever, they do catch this frequently. Okay. Let's see. That was your domestic dishwashing machines. Let's go down to the installation 802.2. Indirect waste piping shall discharge through an air gap or air break into a waste receptor. You keep hearing those terms. Air through an air break, air gap to a waste receptor. Waste receptors should be trapped and vented and shall connect to the building drainage system. Indirect waste piping that exceeds 30 inches in developed length measured horizontally or 54 inches in total developed length shall be trapped. And say, ooh, developed length. That term ought to ring a bell. That was one of your questions from Chapter 2 quiz as far as what is developed length? How do you measure developed length? It's along the center line of the pipe and the fittings. Okay, so not point A to point B, but you got to follow all the turns that the pipe makes and measure all that up. So it says the waste pipe itself must be, the indirect waste pipe itself must be trapped, and it gives you two parts. It gives you a horizontal distance, if the maximum it can be, and then a total distance on that pipe that it can be. So if we had an indirect waste pipe coming off of something, let's just say this was coming, so we got it coming off of something here. Here's our indirect waste pipe discharging into a waste receptor. So it says, let's look at that pipe. 30 inches in developed length measured horizontally. So if this is 30 inches, okay, and it says exceeds 30 inches, so it would have to be greater than 30 inches horizontally. But it also gives you, what does it say, 54 inches total. So if you measure along the center line, come down to here, and then center line, over to here, and then center line on down, okay? If the whole thing, total, greater than 54 inches total developed length, then you have to put a trap on this, okay? So you can come down and trap it, and then run it. So then you would have to come down, and then there it goes. And then you could run over if it needs to, whatever it needs to do, okay? So there it is. Let's see, air gap. Oh, it does give you an exception. So read your exceptions. Where a waste receptor receives only clear water waste and does not directly connect to a sanitary drainage system, the receptor shall not require a trap. Okay, air gap. The air gap between the indirect waste pipe and the flood level rim of the waste receptor shall be not less than twice the effective opening of the indirect waste pipe. So if this is our indirect waste pipe, and it says, okay, we call this air gap because it's leaving a gap. Say, well, how big does that need to be? It's going to be at least a minimum of 2 times the size effective opening of the indirect waste pipe. So if this thing were let's just say it's a 1-inch line, if that were 1 inch, we would need to have at least between here, we would want 2 inches, a 2-inch gap in between there. Okay. Waste receptors. What's receiving it? This waste receptor right here. Let's give some rules for that. Every waste receptor shall be of an approved type. A removable strainer or basket shall cover the waste outlet of waste receptors. Being able to take that screen off, that strainer off, clean that thing out, okay? Waste receptors should not be installed in concealed spaces. Waste receptors should not be installed in plenums, crawl spaces, attics. Almost said interterrestrial, but spaces above ceilings and below floors. Ready access shall be provided to waste receptors. Ready access, not just to access, but ready access. Exception, where hub drains are installed in a crawl space for condensate waste is allowable. Okay. Size of the waste receptors on page 74. Waste receptors should be sized for the maximum discharge of all indirect waste pipes served by the receptor. Receptors should be installed to prevent splashing or flooding. Some means of trying to say, hey, what am I going to do on that thing as far as to keep that thing from splashing here? A lot of times we'll put some type of guard around or something like that. Some way of getting that as far as just not allowing that water to splash everywhere. Hub drains. Hub drains shall be in the form of a hub or a pipe or it could be just a pipe extending not less than 1 inch above a water impervious floor and shall not be required to have a strainer. So a hub drain, it's coming up above the floor because you don't want food and stuff to whatever's on the floor sweeping and just going down in there. It says you don't have to have a strainer on that. If it's coming up, you got to at least be 1 inch above the floor, and then you won't which water impervious floor. Okay, standpipes. Here is all that information that we've covered as far as with your clothes washer. Standpipes. Now, we've always said, and then I'm looking at this, and often we'll just glue the top of that standpipe into the bottom of a washer box or something. But here's all those rules. Okay. Trap weir. Top of the standpipe. A finished floor or something like that, which it was going to be, we're going to call that the base of the clothes washer, if that is where the washer is sitting. Okay, just make sure it is not the floor. It's just remember it is the base of the washer. Now, often the base of the washer is sitting on the floor, so we can go by that. Measure up from the finished floor height because the base of the washer is on the floor. But if you've got a front load or something like that that might be sitting up on a drawer, now the base of the washer is the top of that drawer that you're setting that on. So just be aware of these measurements. Just remember it's taken from the base of the washer. Okay, let's look at some of these measurements. It says standpipe shall be individually trapped. Okay, so we're going to trap that standpipe. It says, and access should be provided to standpipes and drains for rotting. So we have access to the opening of this. We might have drywalled all around the box, but you can get in and feed a snake down through there to rot that out. Standpipe shall be at least 2 inches in diameter. So the size of this is 2 inches in diameter. It's going to, it says, not less than 18 or more than 48 inches in height as measured from the crown weir. Here is the weir, or the crown weir. The whole thing was the crown, and then the part right there is the weir. And it gives a minimum and maximum. A minimum of 18 inches, maximum of 48 inches. In between those locations. And then it also goes on to say that the standpipe shall extend 34 inches minimum above the base of the clothes washer unless recommended otherwise by the manufacturer. The base of the clothes washer up is a minimum of 34 inches. Okay. The maximum of that is the maximum that you can have. You say, well, wait a second, I got a minimum maximum here, but only a minimum here. The maximum is the pumping capability of your clothes washer. How high could you set that? Could I put that way up on the wall somewhere? Yes, you can, as long as your clothes washer is able to pump it that high. So I think that little jingle that we can use to remember, 18 and 30 more, 34. 18 and 30 more, 34. 18, 30 more, add 30 more to 18, you got 48. So 18, 30 more than 34. So 30 more sounds like 34. 18, 30 more, 34. All right, so minimum 18 to 48. One other little part to this, they give you the connection of the laundry tray waistline may be made into a standpipe for the automatic clothes washer drain. The standpipe shall extend above the floor level rim of the laundry tray. The outlet, of the laundry tray shall be a maximum horizontal distance of 30 inches from the standpipe trap. What that is saying to us. Let's get rid of some of this extra here. what we've got right here. So there's your, we've got to put a washer dryer here, but they say, how about if we're going to we want a laundry sink, laundry tray. So a wash sink sitting behind you. It says we can come and tee off of this line and come across and pick that up and then come out the wall, looking at the opening end of the piece of pipe there, is where we're going to connect for a laundry tray connection. It says we can tee it in like that, but this distance, okay, is 30 inches maximum. On that, in between there, okay? We would not, since it is serving through the trap here, we would not need to put a trap underneath the sink. And when we get into chapter 10, it'll tell us that we are not allowed to put two traps on something because it would be double trapping on that. But this is a possibility of what you could do. You could connect your laundry tray or that laundry sink into the standpipe on the clothes washer. All right, let's see. And wastewater temperatures. Let's see. Any of that? Steam pipes should not connect to any part of the drainage or plumbing system, and water above 140 degrees shall not be discharged into any part of a drainage system. Such pipes shall discharge into an indirect waste receptor connecting to the drainage system. So once again, and there's several places through the code book that tells you 140 degrees is the maximum water temperature allowed to enter into the drainage system. But here's another one of those locations. It talks about a placenta drain, acid soil and waste piping in 803.3, 803.4. As far as the drain from a wash basin, or the wash basin of the placenta located in a sacristy may be connected directly to a dry well. It gives you giving you some special waste things. And you say, what in the world is that? Like if you go back, some of the religious temples and things, as far as might have certain elements of communion and all that they take in some of their washing cups and utensils and stuff like that they've got certain rituals that they're following and that they're washing this stuff in. They make certain provisions here for those in that. So let's take a look at your quiz. This one is a 10-question quiz, true or false quiz. So, question number 1 that you need to look for. An indirect waste pipe will need to be trapped when it exceeds 30 inches in developed length measured horizontally, or 54 inches in total developed length. Was that a true or a false statement? An indirect waste pipe will need to be trapped when it exceeds 30 inches in developed length measured horizontally, or 54 inches in total developed length. True or false? Question 2. The minimum air gap between the indirect waste pipe and the flood level rim of the waste receptor is 2 times the diameter of the effective opening of the indirect waste pipe. Is that true or false? Minimum air gap between the indirect waste pipe and the flood level rim of the waste receptor is 2 times the diameter of the effective opening of the indirect waste pipe. True or false? Question 3. Standpipes must be 2 inches in diameter. At least 2 inches in diameter. Is that a true or false statement? Standpipes must be 2 inches in diameter. Question 4. The standpipe can be no less than 18 inches in height measured from the crown weir. The standpipe can be no less than 18 inches in height measured from the crown weir. True or false? Question 5. The standpipe can be no more than 48 inches in height measured from the crown weir. That standpipe can be no more than 48 inches in height measured from the crown weir. Question number 6. The outlet of the laundry tray shall be a maximum horizontal distance of 30 inches from the standpipe trap. The outlet of the laundry tray shall be a maximum horizontal distance of 30 inches from the standpipe trap. True or false? Question 7. An air brake shall be provided between the indirect waste pipe and the trap seal of the waste receptor or standpipe. An air brake shall be provided between the indirect waste pipe and the trap seal of the waste receptor or standpipe. True or false? Question 8. The standpipe shall extend a minimum of 34 inches above the base of the clothes washer. The standpipe shall extend a minimum of 34 inches above the base of the clothes washer. Question 9. Drinking fountains can be connected either directly or indirectly to the drainage system. Drinking fountains can be connected both directly and indirectly to the drainage system. Is that true or false? And for your last one, question 10, the strainer or basket covering the waste outlet of a waste receptor must be removable. The strainer or basket covering the waste outlet of a waste receptor must be removable. Is that a true or false statement? So take your time, go back through these, pause the video where you need to, write down the questions if you need to, go find the answers or go back through the video because I believe I've covered all these in the video. And make sure once you find those statements and found out if were those true statements or false statements, then go back in, take your quiz, and should be able to quickly kind of go through that. And I hope that everybody does really well. If you got any questions, please reach out to me and let me know. But all right, have fun studying. Look forward to seeing you next time.